I'm excited because I'm going to do a Downton Abbey inspired makeup tutorial today. I'm a big fan of the show and I've made up lots of the female cast for various cover shoots and red carpet events and things. I'm extra thrilled and excited to have Laura Carmichael, who plays Lady Edith in the show, as my muse and model today. I'm going to do one of the looks that the makeup artist Maggie Vaughan created on Laura for season 3. So I'm going to be using lots of the products and kind of the type of makeup that she would have worn. And obviously we've got Laura here who can give us all the inside information. So here we go. So I'm going to start by using L'Oreal Infallible foundation and really just working this in a lot. Now, I read an interview with Maggie Vaughan that did your makeup for series 3, which is kind of what we're going for here, that look. Yeah. And it said that all the makeup was airbrushed. Yeah. To give that really realistic kind of natural look. Yeah. Is that fun, being airbrushed every day?
Yeah, you do get used to it. It's quite weird to begin with. And I think the guys always find it hilarious.
Yeah, spray painting.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you can do a lot with it in terms of shading and things quite lightly.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's great. I'm not going to airbrush today because I know that most people at home that are doing their makeup and going to do this look won't have airbrushes. So what we are going to do though is just really ensure that this makeup is very, very natural. So really buffing it in, really smoothing out and thinning out this base so it looks undetectable on the skin. So for concealing, I'm going to use the SC1. I'm going to mix that with a little bit of base actually, just to give it a little bit more slip, and apply underneath. So it's got a little bit of foundation, a little bit of concealer under there. And I know that because this series 3 was set beginning of the 20s, of course upper class women would not be wearing obvious makeup, which is usually just the preserve of actresses and women of ill repute.
Yep. Yeah, no, we were always sort of asking for a bit more in the chair. Can I have a bit more lip? Can I have a bit more blush? And we're not allowed.
Not allowed.
Yeah.
Did you ever sneakily kind of
I never have. I promise. No, I never have. But you do sort of hear stories about that. But you just would look wrong, I think. That's the thing.
It wouldn't be right. Because even though, Hollywood was up and running and women were wearing makeup in the commercialization of makeup was definitely happening. I noticed particularly in Britain that it was still very, very much kind of frowned upon. So
absolutely. Well, and it's sort of that it's coming in though, isn't it? And so that sort of we've been able to, as the series have gone on,
of course,
we wear a bit more now.
Yeah, and particularly with sort of female emancipation and your character's quite
so
feisty anyway.
Yeah, when she goes to London, they sort of use that as an excuse to kind of change the look, really.
Yeah, put a bit more makeup on and be a bit more daring. So just on top of that, I'm going to use some light reflective concealer. This is Clinique Airbrush concealer, just to lift any shadows, but keep it really blended well and very natural looking. So I'm going to do a tiny little bit of powdering. Now I know that you didn't have any powder in the show because you're supposed to look like you really don't have any makeup on at all. And of course you wouldn't have worn any foundation. But if you're wanting to recreate this look, obviously be guided by your skin type. So if you do have oily skin and you need to set a little bit, then do. I'm just putting hardly any, but just a dab here and there. We've got to make it, adapt it to suit ourselves. Yeah. So blush is very important for this look. I'm going to use the Watercolour blush by Daniel Sandler, and this is called Cherub. Now the whole look was kind of very rosy, but very sort of pretty and obviously extremely natural. It's supposed to look like dainty, beautiful ladies that were just naturally very sort of healthy looking. What women would have done at that time is sort of fake would have been to pinch their cheeks.
Yeah.
They would have used things like rose petals and all sorts of ingenious little inventions that would have sort of given you that little rosy glow without looking like you had any makeup on at all. And I know again that this was airbrushed on for the show.
Yeah.
I think it always looked really beautiful actually, and really nicely done. So the main thing really is just having that blush extremely well blended, so you need to look as if you're blushing from within. So I'm just adding the liquid but really thinning it out and using the brush which has a tiny bit of foundation on so that those edges are completely seamless here. I guess you could go home in the makeup after filming because it was so pretty and natural.
Absolutely.
Did you go out sometimes after it?
Yes, although the hair is less easy to
of course, I forgot about that.
disguise. And yeah, you tend to be so exhausted that it's a kind of like hot flannel at the end of the day and
straight into
tie up your crazy curls. And yeah, so we tend to lose.
Does the makeup take long, the airbrush, the Series 3 makeup?
Not too long really, because it is so sort of clean and not so much to it really.
Yeah.
But the hair is very time consuming, and so we're on the truck, getting ready for a while of a morning.
Having a catch up
with
the rest of the girls.
You know, it is. We do have fun. We do have a lot of fun on that makeup truck.
Fantastic. So that's skin pretty much finished because obviously there was no highlighter in those days.
No.
And contouring.
No, sadly.
So I'm going to go on to eyes, and I'm going to use this blusher actually, which is by theBalm. Although Maggie said she used I think it was an Illamasqua eyeshadow. Just again, extremely naturally across the lid to give a rosy flush, like you've been on a lovely morning walk. So that's all across the lids, but very, very natural looking. And then I'm going to use a matte brown shade. This is a Stila colour, and just really tracing a little bit through, you can see just through the socket line there, keeping the shape very round because it's a 20s eye shape, so eyes were kind of, the fashion was to have quite round looking eyes. But again, really naturally, you can see just how natural that needs to be. Almost don't put any pressure at all with the brush because that will really help. So just following into the socket, and use quite a big brush because if you use a small one, it's very easy to end up with a definite line, which is a definite no-no. So buff away there. And then a slightly darker brown powder, again it's a matte shade, just along the lower lash line, very subtly. And close for me, Laura. And also at the lash roots, just at the outer edge there. This is very, very natural looking. You just open, have a look there. You can see, just gives a tiny bit more definition. So same for brows, I'm using a brown brow powder, but hardly any on the brush at all, and just lots of very light strokes. Although obviously people were using brow pencils and things that and penciling them on, the Downton ladies would not have been sporting that look.
No, it's about around season 3. That's when you sort of start to see more of the sort of 20s trends coming in.
Yeah.
So
they start to get a little bit more daring.
Yeah. And because we sort of go to London more, really. So because Downton's a house in Yorkshire, you sort of don't see as many of the new trends come in.
Yeah, of course. It takes a while for them to filter.
So so when Edith goes to the newspaper and things, that's when you see lots of the different looks. And in the office, actually, Maggie had a really great time, I think, with all the supporting artists, making them look great. And that kind of being kind of a fun shock for Edith, seeing women with nail varnish and
red lips. Kohl and
absolutely
plucked, really thin plucked brows. So I'm just going to curl eyelashes next. So I'm just adding a touch of brown mascara, mainly to the centre, to keep that round shape. But I heard that you didn't really have any mascara for the first couple of series.
No, what they tend to do, we would dye our eyelashes to be a bit darker, because you sort of want them to register on camera. And, but they really wouldn't have worn any. So, we tend to dye them, and then maybe use a clear mascara or a tiny amount of brown.
Just to look really like nothing.
And then sometimes on the sort of, for the sort of special moments, and when they're a bit glamorous or we need to look particularly nicer, we might have some individual lashes on.
Oh, right.
Yeah, just at the end.
Would they be the black ones or brown ones?
I think brown ones, I think. Sort of the proposal or things like that. I remember Michelle had some stuff like that just to make things pop.
Occasionally, the special occasions.
Yeah.
A bit more fluttery in the lashes.
Absolutely.
So I'm just really using it in the centre here and then brushing out. Just look in the lens for me. And then look up for me, Laura. Just a tiny bit of clear underneath again, just to give a tiny bit of definition, but without looking mascaraed up. Now for lips, something like a sort of stain, a lip stain like that, or a very sheer tinted lipstick or lip balm type product. I mean, I've tried them both here. I think maybe, what do you think of that one?
Yeah, that's lovely.
Looks about right. That is the Lipstick Queen, and it's Medieval, it's called, which is perfect because it is all about having that kind of extremely natural, almost like you've just eaten kind of berries type effect, and then just having it sort of patted into the lips. And you can use a brush as well if you want, just to create a little bit more shape, but I think if you use a tissue and just kind of keep blotting, so you get that very, very natural stain. And because it shows skin texture of the lips as well, it doesn't look like there's anything on there. So I've just blotted the lips and started to use a little bit of lip pencil, but really just here and there, just to get a little bit of definition. And you did have a touch of lip pencil in the show, I think.
Yeah.
But obviously done to look not obvious. And then finish off with another pat of lipstick, sort of in the centre, so you get that natural glow. And that's it. I think you're finished. What do you think, Laura? Do you think we've captured that that moment that you transported?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's perfect and natural, but yeah, very pretty. I love that lip colour.
It's lovely. You must take that, actually. It suits you.
Thank you.